Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Bala, Hare Bala, Nitai Gaura, Hare Bala, Hare Bala, Nitai Gaura, Hare Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Mr. Padmahanse, Srivakulananda Swami Maharaj, Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Radha Govardhana Dari ki jai, Nitai Gautranandi, Hari Hari Bol. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Morning, we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 1. Text 1, what's written there? 1's written. Sri Sukuru Vacha Evametat Pura Prishto Maitreyo Bhagavan Kila Chatravanam Pravishtena Chakvasvagriham Ririmat Sri Sukuru Vacha Evametat Pura Prishto Maitreyo Bhagavan Kila Chatravanam Pravishtena Chakvasvagriham Ririmat Sri Sukuru Vacha. Sri Sukadeva Goswami said, Evam, thus, etat, this, pura, formerly, prishta, being asked, Maitreya, the great sage Maitreya, Bhagavan, his grace, Kila, certainly, Chatra, by Vidura, Vanam, forest, Pravishtena, entering, Chakva, renouncing, Svagriham, own house, Ridimat, prosperous. Translation. Sukadeva Goswami said, after renouncing his prosperous home and entering the forest, King Vidura, the great devotee, asked this question of his grace Maitreya Rishi. We'll also read text 2. Papa doesn't give a purport there. So we'll read the next verse also. Yadva ayam mantra kridvo Bhagavan Akileshwaraha Pauravendra grihamitva praviveshatma satkritam. Translation. What else is there to say about the residential house of the Pandavas? Sri Krishna, the Lord of everything, acted as your minister. He used to enter that house as if it were his own, and he did not take any care of Duryodhana's house. Purport. According to the Gaudiya Achincha Beda Beda Tattva philosophy, anything which satisfies the senses of the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna, is also Sri Krishna. For example, a Sri Vrindavan Dham is non-different from Sri Krishna. Tat Dhamma Vrindavanam. Because at Vrindavan the Lord enjoys the transcendental bliss of his internal potency. Similarly, the house of the Pandavas was also the source of transcendental bliss for the Lord. It is mentioned here that the Lord identified the house with his own self. Thus, the house of the Pandavas was as good as Vrindavan, and Vidura should not have given up that place of transcendental bliss. Therefore, the reason for his quitting the house was not exactly family misunderstanding. Rather, Vidura took the opportunity to meet Rishi Maitreya and discuss transcendental knowledge. For a saintly person like Vidura, any disturbance due to worldly affairs is insignificant. Such disturbances, however, are sometimes favourable for higher realization, and therefore Vidura took advantage of a family misunderstanding in order to meet Maitreya Rishi. So now we've started the Srimad Bhagavatam 3rd canto, and starting with chapter 1, verse 1, and we've also read verse 2. So here we're reading Sukadeva Goswami speaking to Maharaj Parikshit, and he's telling about Vidura, and later on Vidura asking so many questions to Maitreya Muni. So in the last few days, some of the speakers of the Bhagavatam verses have explained that Vidura left home and went on the pilgrimage, which he did for a long time. He met Uddhava, I believe, in Vrindavan, I think on the bank of the Yamuna. And so he met Uddhava, and I think Nrsinga Kavacha was explaining this. Uddhava advised him to meet with and take instruction from Maitreya Muni, Maitreya Rishi. Now Maitreya Rishi, he met Maitreya Rishi at Haridwar. Maitreya Rishi was there, and he was on the bank of the Ganga at Haridwar. So anyone who's been on pilgrimage to any of these places, that's a little bit of travel. And of course in those days, everyone would walk from one holy place to another holy place. It was definitely considered a tapasya to do like that, walking. Still today, you see when you go to India, that when you visit the holy places, quite a lot of pilgrims walk from one holy place to the other. I remember coming in we were having a meeting at Tirupati, and we were having a meeting at our temple at Tirupati, and of course there's the famous Tirupati temple on the top of the hill, the Venkateshwara temple, and as we were going from, I drove from Madras to Tirupati, and as we were getting closer, we could see many people walking on the side of the road. And we understood that these were pilgrims who are actually walking from their previous place of pilgrimage and to Tirupati. So many of them were elderly. So this is considered one of the tapasyas when one, especially when one becomes elderly, one retires. Generally, both husband and wife, they like to go on the pilgrimage, and many they walk from place to place. So Vidura was going like that, even though he was a king. And here it is mentioned, he renounced his prosperous home. He was a king in Hastinapur under Dhritarashtra, and so he had a palace. He had a palace, and he was very rich, but he quit that, and he went out on pilgrimage, and he accepted a very poverty condition of life. He didn't live in a rich manner, royal, going to the holy places in big palanquins or carts or anything like that, dressed in fine garments. No, he went very plainly and and just walked. So to go from Vrindavan up to Haridwar, that's a long way. So it would have taken him many weeks of walking to Vrindavan. You've got to go to Delhi past Hastinapur at the time, and then up. I don't know exactly the route he took. He went all over, but to go to Haridwar, and there's where he met Maitreya. So here in the in the second verse, it is mentioned that now Sukadeva Goswami mixes in a few stories here, in that Krishna acted as the minister of the Pandavas, and he used to like to visit the house of the Pandavas. Their house was to him like his own house. And it was non-different. And Prabhupada says here, according to the Gaudiya Sampradaya philosophy, especially of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Achincha Beda Beda Tattva, simultaneously one and simultaneously different. This is the philosophy of Lord Chaitanya. So one with, but different from. So the Lord and his abode, in one sense they're different. You and your home are different. You live in your home, you're practically synonymous with your home. If you spend all your time in your home, you are there, your home is there, practically is not separated. But of course, they are separated. So this is the philosophy. One with, but separate. So, of course, we know that there is a Krishna, and the Lord expands to Balaram, and it is said from Balaram, all these abodes, Vrindavan, Dham, the abodes are expanded by the energy of Lord Balaram. So they are non-different from the Lord in a separated expansion. They are one with, and they are separate. And of course, the Lord very much enjoys Vrindavan Dham. That's his home. Of course, he's staying in Dwarka, he's staying in Mathura. Simultaneously, he stays so many places. But he especially enjoys Vrindavan Dham. That is a place where there's very intimate association between the devotees, between Krishna and Radha, Radha and Krishna, in so many ways. So it's very, very intimate, very familiar. The Lord, is not very. He gives up his regal position of the Supreme Lord of all that be. He is very casual. He is very intimate with everyone, and he enjoys like that. So Prabhupada gives the example of Krishna and Vrindavan is non-different to him. So where Krishna stays, that is non-different, and the Pandavas, their home, and Krishna would like to go there because they were great devotees. They were great devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, and they had a very intimate relation. So because they were devotees, their homes were, even their home is glorified. Just like anyone who's a devotee, wherever they are living, their home becomes the temple of Krishna. Krishna is the center of the home of the devotee. Whereas the home of the materialist, so many other things go on there. They're not thinking about Krishna, they're thinking about all sorts of materialistic activities. So that is not the same thing as a spiritual place. And certainly, wherever we go, we feel the atmosphere of that place. Some places have, and everyone feels it. Of course, it's all relative because and subjective because people are affected by the modes of material nature. Some people are more in ignorance or more in passion, a mix of passion. But so everyone will feel a little bit differently, but everyone feels the atmosphere of where they go. You go one place, you feel a certain experience there, and you go to another place, different again. Some place feels more passionate, other place feels more goodness, other place feels, this is more ignorance place. So wherever you go, it has there's a certain experience there. So certainly when you go to a place where there are spiritual activities going on, that atmosphere will also affect us. So just like here, this is also like a house. This is the home. This is the home of Radha and Krishna. Radha Govardhan Dari and Krishna Balaram, Giri Govardhan and Gauranitai, they all live here. So we are coming into their home. I always remember when we moved the temple in Auckland, Parthasarathi might remember when we moved from up the front and we moved to the new temple, the big temple in the back, and we moved the deities. And the deities were going from their home that used to be in the front to the home. I always remember getting a big feeling when we moved Srimati Radharani. And I spoke with other devotees who felt when Srimati Radharani was being taken from her old home to her new home, to me, I felt there was a great experience there for me, and other devotees felt that there was a big, because the home really is the Radha's home. And we are moving Radha from our old home to a new home. So that was a big thing. And we felt it to be a big thing. We actually felt it. And quite a few devotees told me the same thing. Oh, we got a big feeling about that. When we were moving Radharani, I was following her. There was a few devotees carrying Radharani, and she was brought, I figured out in some sort of chariot, wasn't it? She was brought down there. But anyway, it was a big move. So this is their home, and in their home, it is their home. It is a spiritual place, and we perform spiritual activities here. Therefore, when we come into this place, we're mindful that our activity, we want to keep the spiritual atmosphere. We want to keep the spiritual atmosphere, and so therefore we're mindful to act in spiritual ways. When we come here, we do chanting. We listen to Bhagavatam class. We listen to other leelas. We talk about spiritual things. We don't come to the temple and just talk about mundane things. How you have to go down and do something and this. This place is especially meant for spiritual discussion, Krishna Katha, and the spiritual activities. And then the atmosphere of the place is enhanced even more. It's already transcendental, but a transcendental becomes even more transcendental. There's no saturation point on the transcendental platform. So this place is transcendental. So too the devotee's home is transcendental if that home, there are spiritual activities going on there. The deity can be there. The deity is worshipped in the home. Sometimes there's Gauranitai, sometimes there's Lord Jagannath, sometimes Radha and Krishna, or Krishna and Balaram. So many different types of deities can be in the home. And the kirtan goes on in the home. Leelas, there's nice spiritual stories that go on in the home. And so the home takes a very spiritual atmosphere, and when one goes in there, one feels spiritually surcharged by going in that home. So it's a responsibility of the devotees to keep the home spiritual. So in that sense, it is not different from Krishna. Just like when you put the iron rod into the fire, then the iron rod becomes hot like fire. Even though it's not fire, still it acts like that. So this is our Achincha Beta Beta philosophy, Achincha Beta Beta Tattva philosophy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Prabhupada says here that the house of the Pandavas, because they are great devotees, Krishna very much enjoyed going there to their home. And also that he acted as their minister in that, there's different stories tied up here. The Pandavas were exiled. They were exiled for 12 years, for 13 years. The last year they had to be incognito. Everyone remembers this story from the Mahabharata. They had to be incognito. That was the condition. You were exiled for 12 years. Apparently there's some correlation in the time period. Lord Ramchandra also 12 years. It's apparently some astrological solar calculation that when people go to the forest and do tapasyas, there's a 12-year, there's a significance in the 12 years. But anyway, so they did the 12 years and then another year, but that last year was supposed to be in hiding and they couldn't be discovered and they had to go into a city. They couldn't just go in the forest, they had to go into the city. Well, there were certain conditions to that last year, if I remember correctly. But if they were discovered, then they had to go another 13 years. So when that period came, Duryodhana sent his spies out everywhere because he sent spies there all over the place, and all that needed to happen was for them to be discovered in that 1 year, and he would he would gleefully send them into exile again. So he had them everywhere, and he was sure that they would be discovered. And such personalities, as great personalities as the 5 Pandavas, and especially Draupadi, who was phenomenally beautiful and was she was a princess, she was a queen, and the Pandavas, who were strapping Chakras, would be very difficult to hide no matter where they were. So Duryodhana was very confident that they would be found. So actually they were in the forest, and they were in the companionship of Domya, who was like their priest, and Lomhasana, who was another priest who was travelling with them, and they began to discuss. Was coming up to their incognito year, and they began to discuss how they would disguise themselves in that year. They had to remain a whole year undiscovered. So I think it was Domya, he suggested they go to the Matsya kingdom, to the kingdom of King Virat, right? King Virat, which I think is the equivalent of modern day Rajasthan. I've read different accounts of this, but the Matsya kingdom, the kingdom of Virat, is where Rajasthan is today. So that's where they went there. And so they went there, but they had to disguise themselves. So they were talking about, what they could disguise themselves as. So, you remember that story in Mahabharata, and I think Yudhisthira Maharaj, he chose to disguise, what was his name? Kanka, right? He chose, they couldn't use their names, obviously, so they had to create aliases. So he chose the name Kanka, and he disguised himself a Brahmana who was very knowledgeable, and also, while he was in the forest, he lost the dice game, previously. So while in the forest, he met a rishi who gave him a mantra that helped him. When he threw dice, it would come up by chanting. It would come up any way he wanted it. There's a story like that. When he secretly recited the mantra, he threw the dice and it would just come up and he would win the dice game. So he was thinking that one day I was going to have that dice game with Sakuni again. I'm going to use that mantra and beat him. So he was always waiting for that. But he thought that I would disguise myself as a Brahmana, and also I will, show the king how to win at dice. I'll, in this way impress the king. And so I will try to become an advisor to the king. And so, who was it? The Bhima was he was going to be a cook He went there, and they all decided they would go in at different intervals. They would go into the kingdom a little bit staggered, not all together. The 5 people walking in. Oh, these must be the 5 Pandavas, and who's that woman with them, right? Right. So these are the 5 Pandavas and Draupadi, right? So no, they went in separately at little bit different times. So he came in as the cook. I think his name was I think Balaba or something like that. Balaba. And he went into the kitchen and he endeared himself to the cooks and showed he had, he was a good eater, and also he was a pretty good cook too. They employed him. And Arjuna, he decided, because he had a curse from Urvasi from his time in the heavenly kingdom, Urvasi wanted to marry him, and he said, no, I've been teaching you, I can't, but you can. So anyway, she cursed him to be a eunuch. So he said, well, I'll take that curse now. And then actually it is mentioned, there's a good description that when he accepted the curse, his body actually changed a little bit to more a feminine look, more feminine feature. And so his body changed. And his name was Brianala, yeah. And so then Nakula said, I'm very good with the horses or something like that. I forget what his name was. And so I'll go in and I'll look after the king's horses, and Sahadev looked after the cows and the cow, all like that. So they disguised themselves like that. And Draupadi, she dressed herself as a maidservant, wasn't it? I forget her name, Saindra or something. Right. So anyway, they went in there and they were incognito, hidden. And there's mention of Upalavya. They were staying in just before the year was up. They were going to come out, and Krishna visited them. And so Krishna had decided. First of all, Krishna had decided to go and speak with the Kauravas one last time and try to make a peace arrangement, so to avert the war. And so now Dhritarashtra had heard that Krishna was coming, and he sent an envoy to the Pandavas and praising them and so on and so forth. But Yudhisthira didn't very much appreciate it, because everyone knew that all the Pandavas wanted was half the kingdom back. That was their rightful inheritance. But Dhritarashtra didn't actually offer that back. He just offered praises and words. Well, yes, we want peace, but there was no real offer. So Yudhisthira didn't very much appreciate I think he sent Sanjaya. I think Sanjaya was sent, if I remember correctly. Sanjaya was sent, and he gave that message. And Yudhisthira thought that, well, he sent a message back that, no, all these praises I do not appreciate. Just do some positive action. All we're requesting is this, but all we're hearing praises but no action. So at least give us half the kingdom. If you can't give us half the kingdom, at least give me my city of Indraprastha back. We are Kshatriyas, we're meant to. If you won't give that, at least give the 5 villages. Give us 5 villages. We are meant to rule. That is our nature. So that was the message that Sanjaya took back. Of course, Duryodhana, especially, he didn't like that, and he made a statement that he said, I won't give them anything. I won't give them even the land that you can drive a needle through. This is my final decision. This is what he said. This is my final decision. So anyway, coming to the point where Krishna decided to go there and make a peace of. So when Dhritarashtra heard that, he decided to try to sway Krishna over by lavishing him, and he instructed Duryodhana, his son, to set up on the road as Krishna. Now, when Krishna came, he was accompanied by many ministers and rishis and kind of a small army that accompanied him into Hastinapur. And the road coming in, Dhritarashtra had instructed Duryodhana to set up all these pavilions and stalls going for miles. Just, whatever Krishna, when Krishna went past them, that he would see, oh, there's fineries here. There's all silks, there's beautiful things to eat. There's all sorts of things that one could possibly, need while traveling. So, and the idea now, Vidura actually went to Dhritarashtra and said, I don't think Krishna's going to be taken in by all that. I don't think he's going to be taken in. He's come here with a specific mission and a specific request. But all you're trying to do is win him over, separate him from his affection to the Pandavas and win him over by all these offerings. And Dhritarashtra had, once he had arrived, he was going to offer him all this wealth and everything. And Vidura said, your efforts are not very sincere, and don't think Krishna won't see through it. And indeed, when Krishna came in, he saw all the arrangements of the pavilions and the stalls and that. He didn't stop at any of them. But he just stopped in between them, wherever he wanted to stop. So this is mentioned in the Mahabharata. So then when he finally arrived, and then he went to see everyone in the palace, he went to the Dhritarashtra's palace and greeted everyone. He spent some time there. And then he retired to the home of Vidura. So he very much preferred to stay with Vidura. And when he was staying there, he was offered to visit so many palaces. Bhishma, offered him to come to his home. Drona offered him to come to his palace. They all had palaces. And then Duryodhana actually extended a lunch invitation to Krishna. Please come to my home for lunch. So Krishna went, he visited everyone. He visited Kunti, this is mentioned. He visited Kunti, he visited everyone, and he went to Duryodhana's palace. And then when he went to Duryodhana's palace, Duryodhana extended the invitation for lunch. But Krishna didn't accept it. And this is an interesting statement by Krishna, why he didn't accept it. You have not inspired me with love. This was his statement. You have not inspired me with love. Without any reason you have from the moment of your birth been envious of the Pandavas who are endowed with magnificent qualities. Who indeed could do them injury? He who hates them hates me. He who loves them also loves me. Know that the Pandavas and myself are like a common soul. That wrathful, uncontrolled person who hates and seeks to injure those who are pious can never enjoy prosperity in this life. He, however, who tries to win over by good intentions persons endowed with good qualities, even though he's adverse to them in his heart, enjoys prosperity in this life. All these offerings that everyone is extending to me are contaminated by sinful intentions. I will not accept them. The food supplied by Vidura is the only food fit to be eaten by me. So Krishna didn't mince any words there. He spoke very sharply and plainly. Here it is said that he used to enter the Pandavas. He stayed with Vidura. He accepted his meals at Vidura, but he didn't accept the meals from the lunch invitation. And Duryodhana complained about it. Duryodhana actually complained about why he was we're all the family. Why are you accepting staying at the Pandavas in Vidura and not accepting my lunch invitation? And actually, earlier on, Bhishma and others had pointed out so many faults in Duryodhana. And Duryodhana, when others had finished speaking, he said, "You are all pointing out so many so-called faults in myself, but I don't accept that I have got any faults whatsoever." And he went on to explain why he didn't have even one single fault. And not he didn't have any faults, but all the others had the faults. And why wasn't that recognised? And why are you speaking against me? And it was at that point he said that my final decision, I won't give them even the land that you can drive a needle through. So then he left the assembly. But anyway, so Krishna didn't accept that house of Duryodhana. So interesting, that is not given with love. Even Dhritarashtra, all these offerings, later on, even though he said that, yes, we have to follow the good advice of Bhishma, others, later on privately he asked Sanjaya, what is the strength of the armies of the Pandavas? So in the back of even Dhritarashtra's mind, even though he was saying, yes, we have to follow this good advice, but what can I do? Duryodhana won't follow anything I say. But actually, in the back of his mind, he was favouring Duryodhana. And Prabhupada, and Prabhupada was quite critical of Dhritarashtra because he was the king, he was the father, he should have controlled his son more. This was Prabhupada's position, but he didn't. But he was saying, oh, what can I do? My son won't follow what I say. But actually this was not sincere. This was not sincere, because inside he was favouring his son. And therefore he asked Sanjaya, what is the actual strength of the Pandavas army? You see, very conniving. And all this offering of wealth and lavishing Krishna, we'll get him over to our side. But Vidura saw right through it. Many saw right through it immediately. He said, don't think that Krishna's going to... And sure enough, when Krishna came, he didn't accept anything. And he spoke quite strongly. And later on, he gave a big speech. And Duryodhana, even before that, had conspired to capture Krishna. We all know this story. He was going to allow Krishna to come, even invite him for lunch. This is symptomatic of a devious person. They got their smile and they got their arm around, oh, you're my best friend, but in the other hand, there's a knife going into the back, right? So these are this is very much symptomatic of people in the mode of ignorance and people in the mode of passion. They're very devious, they're not straightforward. They'll smile and say how much they like you, but behind your back they're conniving and conspiring to do so many things against you. This was Duryodhana, even though he went out and set up all these things on the road, on the road that Krishna was going. He set them up. He followed Dhritarashtra's instruction, but he actually understood Dhritarashtra's purpose. He set it all up for Krishna. And interestingly enough, there's one section there in the Mahabharata where when Krishna came, everyone came out to greet him. There was not one single person who was left inside their home from Hastinapur. Everyone came out except one. Who was that one? Duryodhana. Duryodhana didn't come out. But everyone came out to greet Krishna, but Duryodhana didn't come out. This was not lost on Krishna. So there's one thing, where you say something, oh, you are my friend, you are everything, and this and that and the other thing. And generally, people are very motivated when they say that. You're so nice. You reckon you could lend me $20,000 a month? This is just an example. There's some motivation to it. But, I remember there was one, persons I knew that And one friend lent the other friend, $50,000. That friend was praising him, and then he asked him for $50,000 loan. And so he lent him the $50,000. And then after a year or two, he said, well, when are you going to pay the $50,000 back? Well, I don't know. I put it into the business, but, if the business went bad and it's all gone. I said, well, you still owe me the $50,000. Well, what can I do? You shouldn't have lent it to me in the first place. That was his statement to his friend. So friends and this and that and the other, it's quite superficial in the material world. Your friends go very, the real friends are you stick through thick and thin. So anyway, this goes to the point that's made here of the Pandava and what Sukadeva Goswami is saying, that he acted as the minister. He went to he used to enter that house like it was his own. He didn't care for Duryodhana's house. Now here Prabhupada also mentions about Vidura leaving home. Vidura was really insulted by Duryodhana. When you read that section in the Mahabharata, Duryodhana just said, throw him out. Who is this man who's always plotting against us? Throw him out and leave him with just his breath. Throw him out of that. So many nasty things, he said. So then Vidura quit home, and that's when he went out on pilgrimage. But here it is mentioned that actually Vidura, being a very saintly personality, was not really affected by that. Now this is an interesting point, because it's presented on the surface of it all. Oh well, he was insulted, he was treated so badly. But saintly persons, they're not so affected by that. Ordinary persons are affected by that type of thing, aren't they? Someone's, oh, you're horrible, you're ugly, you're nasty, but you get all affected. Then generally you want to retaliate. You want to say something back. Oh yeah, well, who do you think you are? Right? Who are you? Right? You're nothing but this. You're the one that's like that. So generally that's ordinary person is like that. But the saintly persons are not like that. Actually, they're not even that perturbed, because it's it's just the whole material world is just a dream. Prabhupada gives the example, just like in a dream, you may dream that you're being attacked by a tiger, and a tiger starts eating you even in the dream, right? And then you're all, but then you wake up from there, oh, it was only a dream. It has no meaning, it was a dream. But those who stay in the dream and just totally absorbed in that dream and that nightmare, then they're affected. But those who are awake from the dream, they're not affected. So great saintly persons, they're not affected by that. So he was not actually affected. He just used as an excuse to hear from Maitreya Rishi. So Prabhupada points out that those who are saintly, there are many param yadviparam natrisham, danger at every step in this world, isn't there? You can't go anywhere where it's not dangerous. There's danger wherever you go. There's danger. You could be just walking and you slip over and fall back and break your head. And so the nature of the world is dangerous. I think that we have to wake up to that reality. The nature of the world is dangerous. And so actually the samasrida pala. That's not the place of the saintly persons. They're absorbed in the spiritual world. So therefore, all right, some adverse situation, let me take advantage of the whole thing and increase my spirituality. So this is the mentality of a saintly person. He uses that as an impetus. So that was the real reason he was going to hear from Maitreya Rishi. So Hare Krishna, thank you very much. I've gone a little bit late, but we have time for perhaps one comment or question. Any comments or questions? Yes. Yes.
You mentioned how Duryodhana was saying that Duryodhana was convincing the Pandavas, and who was it?
The convincing?
No. He was talking about how he didn't have any faults.
Oh yeah.
He was talking to.
No, he was talking to the assembly. There was an assembly in the palace of Dhritarashtra,
Yeah.
and they were all talking about Krishna's mission or why Krishna had come, and then Bhishma and others were saying we should follow this. But Duryodhana, that's after a while. And why should we follow what Duryodhana? And then they were criticising Dhritarashtra. You can read this a whole section in the Mahabharata.
So I'm just wondering, what was the argument of Duryodhana? Because you mentioned that Duryodhana was giving arguments to prove that he...
Well, there's many. He gave many examples of how the Pandavas mistreated him. So you can read that section in the Mahabharata. He gave, he was mistreated by them, and so many things they did. Look how they treated Kana. There's so many. So he gave different examples of how they did misdeeds, and why aren't anyone criticising them? Why is everyone just criticising me? And actually, I did nothing wrong. I just, was standing up for Kana. And in one sense, you could see it. Kana came in and he was treated. You're not a Kshatriya. That was one example I think he gave. But you can read that section where he gives that. In the Mahabharata, you can find that section there where he stands up and he gives his arguments. I'm not at fault. I don't consider myself to have any fault in this regard.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Jai, all glory to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Go Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.